The hospital room smelled like disinfectant and fear when Vincent Xavier walked past it the first time, his expensive Italian shoes clicking against the linoleum floor, and he would have kept walking if he had not heard the small voice inside asking, "Mommy, are you going to die like Daddy did?" He stopped without meaning to, his hand frozen on the portfolio containing the acquisition papers for this very hospital. 3 months of negotiations, and he was supposed to be meeting with the board in 20 minutes to finalize the purchase of Riverside Medical Center. Vincent had built his empire, Xavier Holdings, by buying struggling hospitals and turning them profitable, never letting sentiment interfere with business. But that child's question made something twist uncomfortably in his chest. Through the partially open door, he could see a woman lying in the hospital bed, her face pale against the pillow, and Roman IV line running into her arm. Next to her sat a little girl who could not have been more than 6 years old, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. The woman reached out with obvious effort and stroked the child's hair. "No, baby, Mommy just needs some medicine and rest. I promise I am going to be fine." "You promise for real?" The little girl's voice wavered. "For real? Have I ever broken a promise to you?" Vincent realized he was standing there staring and forced himself to move. He had a meeting to get to, a deal to close. Other people's problems were not his concern. He had learned that lesson the hard way growing up in foster care, bouncing from home to home until he aged out of the system at 18. Nobody had stopped to help him when he was sleeping in his car while working 2 jobs to put himself through community college. He had built everything himself, and sentiment was a luxury he could not afford. The meeting with the hospital board went smoothly. They were desperate, drowning in debt and outdated equipment. Vincent's offer was generous enough to let them save face while still giving him the control he needed. By the time he left the conference room, he owned another hospital. He should have felt satisfied. Instead, he found himself walking back past that room, telling himself he was just heading toward the exit. The door was closed now, but he could hear crying from inside. Not the child this time. The woman. Vincent kept walking. 3 days later, he returned to Riverside Medical Center for his first official walkthrough as owner. His operations manager, Tom, led him through the facility, pointing out everything that needed upgrading. The staff eyed him nervously, knowing that new ownership usually meant layoffs and restructuring. "The pediatric wing needs the most work," Tom said, guiding him down a hallway decorated with faded murals of cartoon animals. "We are bleeding money here. I recommend we scale it back, maybe convert half the space to more profitable departments." "Show me the numbers first," Vincent said. He prided himself on making decisions based on data, not emotion. They passed the nurse's station, where a tired-looking woman in scrubs was arguing with someone on the phone. "I understand there is a copay, but Miss Foster cannot afford it right now. Is there any way we can set up a payment plan? She is a single mother and just lost her husband 6 months ago, and now this." Vincent's attention sharpened at the name, Foster. "Who is she talking about?" he asked Tom. Tom glanced over. "No idea. Why? Just curious." Vincent moved closer, pretending to examine a notice board while listening. The nurse sighed heavily. "Thank you. Yes, I will let her know." She hung up and muttered to herself, as if that poor woman does not have enough to deal with. "Excuse me," Vincent said, and the nurse jumped slightly. "I am Vincent Xavier, the new owner. I overheard you mention a Miss Foster. Is she a patient?" The nurse's expression became guarded. "I cannot discuss patient information, sir." "I am not asking for details. I'm asking if there are systematic issues with how we handle payment plans for patients in difficult circumstances." The nurse studied him for a moment, clearly trying to determine if this was a trap. "We do our best, but the billing department has strict policies. Miss Foster, well, she is one of our own, works in housekeeping. She collapsed on the job last week from exhaustion and dehydration. Turned out she has a serious infection that went untreated because she could not afford to take time off or see a doctor. She has a little girl to support on her own. Vincent felt that uncomfortable twist in his chest again. What room is she in, Mr. Xavier? I really should not. I own the hospital now. I can access patient records if I want to. I am asking you as a courtesy. Room 304, the nurse said quietly, but she is probably sleeping. The antibiotics make her tired. Vincent found himself walking toward room 304 before he could think better of it. He knocked softly, and a small voice said, "Come in." The little girl from 3 days ago sat in the chair by the bed, coloring in a book balanced on her knees. Her mother was indeed asleep, looking even paler than before. The child looked up at him with wide brown eyes that held far too much worry for someone so young. "Hi," Vincent said, suddenly feeling awkward. He was better with boardrooms than children. "I am Vincent. What is your name?" "Ruby," she said softly. "Are you a doctor?" "No, I am. Well, I help run the hospital now." He stepped closer, keeping his voice low so as not to wake her mother. "That is a nice rabbit you have." Ruby hugged the stuffed animal protectively. "His name is Mr. Hoppers. My daddy gave him to me." "Your daddy has good taste. He died." Ruby said it matter-of-factly, but her lower lip trembled. "A car accident. Now it is just me and Mommy, but Mommy got sick because she works too much. She says she has to so we can keep our apartment and I can have food and clothes." But I told her I do not need new clothes. I need her to not be sick. Vincent felt something crack in the walls he had built around himself over the years. He crouched down so he was at Ruby's eye level. "Your mom is getting good medicine here. She is going to get better." "That is what she says too, but she looks so tired all the time." Ruby's eyes filled with tears. "I try to be really good and not ask for things so she does not have to worry, but I do not know how to make enough money for both of us." "Hey, that is not your job," Vincent said firmly. "You are a kid. Your job is to go to school, play with your friends, and let the grown-ups worry about money. Okay. But there is only one grown-up now, and she is sick." Before Vincent could respond, a weak voice came from the bed. "Ruby, who are you talking to?" The woman's eyes opened, and for the first time, Vincent got a clear look at her face. She was younger than he had initially thought, probably in her late 20s. Even exhausted and ill, there was something striking about her, something in the determined set of her jaw that he recognized because he saw it in his own mirror every morning. She had a fighter's eyes. "Sorry," Vincent said, standing. "I did not mean to intrude. I am Vincent Xavier. I just acquired this hospital." Her expression shifted immediately to wariness. "You are here to tell me I am fired, aren't you? Because I got sick." "What? No." He was taken aback by the assumption. I was doing a walkthrough and I heard," he stopped himself. The truth sounded too strange. What was he supposed to say? "I heard your daughter ask if you were going to die and I have not been able to stop thinking about it." "You heard I am costing the hospital money," she finished for him. Her name was written on the whiteboard on the wall, Rebecca Foster. "I understand. I will be back to work as soon as the doctors clear me. I am a good worker. Ask anyone, I have never missed a day before this." "Miss Foster, I am not here to fire you. I am here to make sure you are receiving adequate care." She laughed, but it sounded more bitter than amused. "That is a new one. Hospital owners usually do not make house calls to check on housekeeping staff." She had a point. Vincent was not sure what he was doing here himself. "Nevertheless, that is why I am here. Is there anything you need?" Rebecca studied him with those sharp, tired eyes. "Why do you care?" It was a fair question, and he did not have a good answer. Let's just say I believe in taking care of my employees. You cannot work if you are not healthy. So it is about money after all, making sure your worker bees are productive. Vincent felt a flash of irritation. He was trying to help, even if he could not quite explain why, and she was throwing it back in his face. You know what, forget it, I apologize for bothering you. He turned to leave. Wait. Rebecca's voice stopped him. She sighed. I am sorry, that was rude. I am not used to people in expensive suits caring about what happens to people like me. And I have been terrified about losing my job and our apartment, and what would happen to Ruby if something happened to me, so I am a little defensive. Thank you for checking on me. That was kind. Vincent turned back. How long have you been working here? 3 years. I work the night shift, 7 at night to 3 in the morning. That way I can take Ruby to school and pick her up, spend the evening with her, and then my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, watches her while I work. Or she did. Mrs. Chen moved last month to live with her daughter. I have been trying to figure out childcare, but overnight babysitters are expensive, and Ruby is scared to stay with strangers at night, and She trailed off, blinking rapidly. Sorry, you do not need to hear all this. But Vincent found he wanted to hear it, wanted to understand how this woman had ended up here, working herself to the point of collapse. Your husband's death left you without support. Rebecca's face tightened. Jake did not have life insurance. We always meant to get some, but we were young and it seemed like something we could do later. And then later never came. He was a good man, a great father. He worked construction and was saving up so he could start his own contracting business someday. We had plans. Her voice cracked on the last word. Mommy, do not be sad, Ruby said, abandoning her coloring to climb carefully onto the bed and curl against her mother's side. I am okay, baby. Rebecca wrapped her arm around her daughter, and Vincent saw her wince at the movement. How long are you supposed to stay? He asked. The doctor said a few more days of Roman 4 antibiotics, then I can go home with pills. But the hospital bill is going to be enormous even with my employee insurance, and I already owe money on Jake's medical expenses and funeral costs. I am trying to figure out if I can pick up extra shifts when I get back, but if I do not have childcare. She looked down at Ruby. I will figure it out. I always do. Vincent made a decision that his logical brain told him was foolish, but his gut insisted was right. What if you did not have to work nights anymore? Rebecca's eyes shot to his. What? I am restructuring the hospital operations. I need someone who knows the facility inside and out, someone who cares about this place and the people who work here. How would you feel about taking a day position in hospital administration? Better hours, better pay, and you would be home with your daughter at night. I clean floors, Rebecca said slowly. I do not have any administration experience, but you know how this hospital runs from the ground up. You have seen what works and what does not. That is more valuable than you think. And I am guessing you are smart and quick to learn, or you would not have survived as a single mother working nights for 3 years. Why would you do this? She searched his face. You do not know me. You do not owe me anything. It was a good question, and Vincent still was not sure of the answer. Maybe it was because Ruby reminded him of himself at that age, trying so hard to be brave when everything was falling apart. Maybe it was because Rebecca had the same fierce determination that had driven him to build his empire from nothing. Or maybe he was just tired of only caring about profit margins and acquisition targets. Let's call it a hunch, he said. If it does not work out, no harm done. But I think you will surprise yourself. I would have to find childcare for after school, Rebecca said, but he could hear the hope creeping into her voice. There is an excellent after-school program at the elementary school 2 blocks from here. We could adjust your hours so you can drop Ruby off and pick her up. Vincent had no idea why he knew about the after-school program, but he made a mental note to research childcare resources near the hospital. If Rebecca needed this, other employees probably did too. Rebecca looked down at Ruby, then back at Vincent. "Okay," she said quietly. "I would like to try, thank you. Do not thank me yet. Wait until you see how much work I am going to give you." Vincent allowed himself a small smile. "Focus on getting better first. We will work out the details once you are released." As he left the room, Tom was waiting in the hallway with an expression that suggested he had questions. Vincent ignored him and kept walking. He had a lot of work to do, and apparently, his latest project involved finding a way to justify hiring a housekeeper with no relevant experience into an administrative role. 2 weeks later, Rebecca Foster reported for her first day in her new position. Vincent had spent those weeks convincing himself this was a sound business decision, and had absolutely nothing to do with the way his chest had tightened when he saw the fear in Ruby's eyes or the stubborn hope in Rebecca's voice. He had created a new role, Assistant Director of Hospital Operations, and if some of his executives thought it was an odd choice, nobody questioned him directly. Rebecca showed up 15 minutes early wearing a dress that had clearly been purchased from a discount store but fit her well. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun and she looked healthier, the color back in her cheeks. She also looked nervous. "Good morning," Vincent said, gesturing for her to sit in his temporary office at the hospital. "How are you feeling?" "Much better. The antibiotics worked and I have been resting like the doctor ordered. Ruby is thrilled that I will be home in the evenings now. She has been talking nonstop about it." "Good. I am glad to hear it." Vincent slid a folder across the desk. "Here is what I am thinking for your role. I need someone to be my eyes and ears on the ground floor. Staff are not going to be honest with the owner about problems, but they will talk to someone who used to be one of them. I also need someone to help evaluate which departments are operating efficiently and which ones need improvement. You have been here 3 years, worked night shifts when the skeleton crew is on duty. You know where the problems are." Rebecca opened the folder and scanned the documents, her eyes widening when she saw the salary. This is more than double what I was making. It is a fair salary for the position and the hours I am going to expect from you. You will also have full benefits, including better health insurance." Vincent had made sure of that personally. "I do not know what to say." "Say you are ready to work hard because I am not doing you any favors here. I expect results." Rebecca looked up, meeting his eyes directly. "I am ready. I will not let you down." Something in her gaze made Vincent's pulse quicken unexpectedly. He forced himself to look away, back at the papers on his desk. "Your first assignment is to spend a week shadowing the nursing staff on different shifts. Take notes on staffing issues, equipment problems, anything that affects patient care or employee morale. Can you do that?" "Yes." Rebecca's voice was stronger now, more confident. "Good. My executive assistant will give you a schedule and a hospital phone. If you need anything or have questions, call me directly." "Mr. Xavier, Vincent," he corrected. "We are going to be working closely together. No need for formality." "Vincent," she repeated, and something about the way she said his name made him look up again. "Thank you for taking a chance on me. I know this is unusual. You can thank me by proving I made the right choice." Rebecca smiled, and it transformed her face completely. Vincent realized with a start that she was beautiful when she was not exhausted and frightened. "I will. I promise." Over the next few weeks, Vincent found reasons to be at Riverside Medical Center more than any of his other properties. He told himself it was because this was his newest acquisition and needed the most attention. He ignored the fact that his presence coincided with Rebecca's schedule. She threw herself into the work with an intensity that matched his own. Her reports were detailed and insightful, pointing out issues he would never have seen from the boardroom. She noticed that the night cleaning crew was understaffed, forcing workers to rush and miss things. She identified a scheduling problem in the ER that left them short-handed during shift changes. She even caught a supply ordering issue that was costing the hospital thousands in wasted resources. "How did you see this?" Vincent asked one afternoon, reviewing her latest report in the hospital cafeteria where they had started meeting regularly to discuss her findings. Rebecca shrugged. "When you work nights and have to hunt down supplies yourself because the closets are empty, you pay attention to patterns. The day shift uses twice as much because they are not careful about inventory. They know more will be ordered. The night shift hoards supplies because we know we are the last priority. Neither is efficient. So what is your solution? Better communication between shifts and a real-time inventory system so people can see what is available instead of guessing, and maybe consequences for departments that waste resources." Vincent found himself smiling. "You are good at this." Rebecca looked pleased but tried to hide it. "I am just using common sense." Common sense is not as common as you think, especially in hospital administration. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You could have done this years ago if circumstances had been different." Her expression shifted, becoming more guarded. "If Jake had not died, you mean? If I had not had to drop out of college to work full-time? You were in college for 2 years. I was studying business administration, actually. Kind of ironic, right? But then Ruby came along, which was the best surprise ever, and we decided I would take a semester off and then go back. But then money was tight with a baby, and I kept putting it off. And then the accident happened, and college became a fantasy I could not afford anymore." "You could finish now," Vincent said. "Take classes online. The hospital could even pay for it as a professional development benefit." Rebecca shook her head. "I barely have time to sleep as it is. Between work and Ruby, adding school would be impossible. You are making excuses." Her eyes flashed. "I am being realistic. Not all of us have the luxury of pursuing whatever we want whenever we want it." "You think I had luxury?" Vincent heard his voice turn cold. "I grew up in foster care. Aged out of the system at 18 with nowhere to go and nobody who gave a damn what happened to me. I worked 70-hour weeks while taking night classes at community college, transferred to a state school on scholarship, and built my business from nothing. So do not talk to me about luxury." Rebecca stared at him, and he realized he had just revealed more about his past than he had intended. He never talked about his childhood, never let anyone see that vulnerability. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I did not know. That must have been incredibly hard. It was a long time ago." Vincent stood, suddenly wanting to escape this conversation. "I need to get back to the office. Email me that inventory proposal and I will review it." "Vincent, wait." Rebecca stood too, reaching out as if to touch his arm, then pulling back. "I did not mean to dismiss what you have accomplished. It is impressive, truly. Sometimes it is hard to see past the expensive suits and the CEO title to remember that everyone has a story." He forced himself to relax. "You are right. I apologize for snapping at you. Your point about time constraints is valid, but maybe think about it. You clearly have the aptitude for this work." "I will think about it," she promised. "And Vincent, thank you for sharing that with me. I know it was not easy." As Vincent drove back to his downtown office, he tried to analyze what had just happened. He had lost his composure, something he never did. Rebecca had gotten under his skin in a way nobody had in years. It was disconcerting and exhilarating in equal measure. His phone rang as he pulled into the parking garage. It was Tom, his operations manager. "We have a problem with the Riverside deal. The city is pushing back on our plans to cut the pediatric department. Apparently, some staff members filed complaints. Vincent's jaw tightened. Who? Does it matter? The point is, we are getting negative press, and the city council is threatening to block our other zoning requests if we do not back down. Set up a meeting with the council. I will handle it. You want to handle city council yourself. That is what you pay lobbyists for. This one is important. Set it up. Vincent ended the call and sat in his car for a moment, thinking. He could fight the city, push through the cuts, and move on. It was what he would normally do. But Rebecca's reports had shown him that the pediatric department, while not profitable, served a critical need in a low-income area. Cutting it would leave hundreds of children without accessible health care. When had he started caring about things like that? The next day, Vincent attended Ruby's school play. He had not planned to. Rebecca had mentioned it casually during one of their meetings, saying she was excited to finally be able to attend one of her daughter's events. Something in her voice had made Vincent ask for details, and before he knew it, he had the time and location written down. Now he sat in the back of the elementary school auditorium, surrounded by parents with cameras, wondering what he was doing there. On stage, a group of first graders butchered a rendition of a fairy tale, and when Ruby appeared as a talking tree, Vincent found himself leaning forward. She was nervous, he could tell. Her voice wavered on her first line. But then she spotted her mother in the third row, and her face lit up. The rest of her lines came out stronger, more confident. After the show, Vincent waited in the lobby, still not sure why he was there. Rebecca emerged with Ruby, both of them smiling, and froze when she saw him. "Vincent, what are you doing here?" Ruby's eyes went wide. "You came to see my play." "I was in the neighborhood," Vincent said, which was a lie. The school was nowhere near any of his usual routes. "I thought I would stop by." That is really nice of you." Rebecca looked genuinely touched. "Ruby, do you remember Mr. Xavier from the hospital?" "You helped my mommy," Ruby said solemnly. "Thank you." Vincent crouched down to her level, something he seemed to be doing a lot around this kid. "You were great up there. Very professional tree." Ruby giggled. "I forgot my line at first, but then I saw Mommy and I remembered." "That is what matters. You pushed through and did great. Can you come have ice cream with us? Mommy always takes me for ice cream after plays." "Ruby, I am sure Vincent is busy," Rebecca said quickly. But Vincent surprised himself by saying, "Ice cream sounds good actually." They ended up at a small parlor 2 blocks from the school, Ruby chattering excitedly about the play while Vincent and Rebecca listened. Watching Rebecca with her daughter, Vincent saw a softness in her that she did not show at work, a deep well of love that made his chest ache for reasons he did not want to examine too closely. "You are a good mom," he said quietly while Ruby was distracted by her sundae. Rebecca looked surprised. "I try. Some days I feel like I am failing completely, like I am not giving her enough or being enough. She is happy, confident. You can tell she knows she is loved. That is what matters most." "Did you have that?" Rebecca asked gently. "In the foster homes," Vincent shook his head. "Some of the families were okay. Others were just collecting a check. None of them wanted me permanently. I was too old, too angry, too difficult. I learned not to expect love, made it easier. I am sorry. Every child deserves to be loved. Maybe, but we do not always get what we deserve." Vincent realized they had drifted into dangerous territory again, places he did not like to go. "Anyway, that was a long time ago. I am fine." "Are you?" Rebecca studied him with those perceptive eyes. "You have built an empire and you are successful and powerful, but are you happy?" Nobody had ever asked him that before. Vincent did not know how to answer. "I am satisfied with my accomplishments." "That is not the same thing." Before Vincent could respond, Ruby finished her ice cream and announced she needed to use the bathroom. Rebecca took her, leaving Vincent alone with his thoughts and a question he could not stop turning over in his mind. Was he happy? Over the following months, Vincent's life developed a new rhythm. He split his time between his main office and Riverside Medical Center, telling himself it was necessary oversight. He met with Rebecca regularly to review hospital operations, and their meetings often stretched longer than scheduled as they talked about everything from supply chain issues to their childhoods to their dreams for the future. Rebecca started taking online classes, just one to start, after Vincent wore down her resistance. She complained about the homework load but came alive when discussing what she was learning. Vincent found himself looking forward to their conversations more than any of his high-stakes business negotiations. Ruby became a regular presence too. On days when the after-school program closed early or there was no school, she would come to the hospital and do homework in Rebecca's office. Vincent started keeping candy in his desk drawer for her visits, and somehow they developed a tradition of him quizzing her on spelling words. "You are good with her," Rebecca said one evening as Vincent helped Ruby sound out a particularly difficult word. "Have you ever thought about having kids?" Vincent looked up, caught off guard. "No, I always figured I would not be good at it. No role models growing up." "I think you are wrong. You have been kinder to Ruby than most people who have known her all her life. She is easy to be kind to. She is a good kid." Because her dad was a good man and taught her well, even in the short time they had together. Rebecca's voice softened. "Jake would have liked you, I think. He always admired people who worked hard and built something from nothing." It was the first time she had talked about her husband without sadness clouding her expression. Vincent felt something complicated twist in his chest, jealousy mixed with respect for a man he had never met, but who had clearly been loved deeply. "I wish I could have met him," Vincent said, and meant it. "Me too." Rebecca smiled. "He would have given you a hard time about the expensive suits, though. He was all about jeans and work boots." Vincent looked down at his custom-tailored suit and Italian leather shoes. "I can do jeans." "Really? I have never seen you in anything but suits." "That is because you only see me at work." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Vincent watched Rebecca's cheeks flush slightly. "Well," she said, her voice a little unsteady, "maybe I should see you outside of work sometime then." "Is that an invitation?" "It could be, if you wanted it to be." Vincent knew he should say no. She was his employee. This was crossing a line, but when he opened his mouth, what came out was, "Saturday. Let me take you and Ruby to the park or something." "Something normal." "Normal," Rebecca laughed. "Do you even know what normal looks like?" "No, but I would like to find out." Saturday came with perfect autumn weather, and Vincent showed up at Rebecca's apartment building feeling more nervous than he had before any business meeting in his life. He had agonized over what to wear, finally settling on jeans and a casual button-down shirt. When Rebecca opened the door and her eyes widened appreciatively, he knew he had made the right choice. "You really can do jeans," she said with a smile. "I am impressed." "Vincent," Ruby barreled into him, hugging his waist. "Mommy said we are going to the park and maybe the zoo." "That is the plan. Is that okay with you?" "That is amazing. I love the zoo. Can we see the penguins?" "We can see whatever you want." They spent the day at the city zoo, Ruby running from exhibit to exhibit while Vincent and Rebecca followed at a more leisurely pace. Vincent could not remember the last time he had done something like this. Simple and pointless and absolutely perfect. At the penguin exhibit, Ruby pressed her face against the glass, watching the birds swim. Vincent stood next to Rebecca, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "This is nice," Rebecca said softly. "Thank you for suggesting it. Thank you for saying yes. I was not sure you would. Why would not I? Because I am your boss, because this complicates things, because you might not think of me that way. Rebecca turned to look at him directly. What way? Vincent found himself unable to hide behind business language or deflection. The way I think about you, which is constantly and in ways that have nothing to do with hospital operations. Her breath caught. Oh, if I am reading this wrong, tell me now and we will forget I said anything. We will go back to just working together. You are not reading it wrong, Rebecca said quietly. I think about you too a lot, but Vincent, I have not done this since Jake. I do not even know how to date anymore, and I have Ruby to consider. If this goes badly, I would never hurt Ruby. Or you. I cannot promise I will be good at this, but I can promise I will try. Vincent reached out and took her hand, feeling her fingers curl around his. I have spent my whole life not letting anyone get close, not risking anything I could not afford to lose, but with you, I want to risk it. You are nothing like I expected, Rebecca said, a smile playing at her lips. When I first saw you in that hospital hallway, I thought you were just another rich guy who did not care about real people. But you are so much more than that. I am a selfish person who built an empire by not caring about anyone but myself. You and Ruby are teaching me how to be something else, someone better. Mommy, Vincent, come look. The baby penguin, Ruby called, and they both laughed. We should probably, Rebecca gestured toward her daughter. Yeah. But Vincent did not let go of her hand as they walked over to where Ruby waited. After the zoo, they got pizza at a family restaurant that Vincent would never have set foot in before. Ruby told them everything she knew about penguins, which was apparently extensive, while Vincent and Rebecca traded smiles over her head. It felt like a family, and the realization both terrified and thrilled him. When he drove them home, Ruby had fallen asleep in the backseat, clutching her new stuffed penguin from the gift shop. Vincent carried her upstairs to the apartment while Rebecca unlocked the door. Her room is this way, Rebecca whispered, leading him down a short hallway. Vincent laid Ruby gently on her bed, and Rebecca removed her shoes and covered her with a blanket. In the living room, they stood facing each other, the air charged with everything unsaid. I should go, Vincent said, not moving. You should, Rebecca agreed, also not moving. Rebecca, she stepped closer and kissed him, soft and brief and absolutely perfect. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. I am not good at playing games or waiting for the perfect moment. I like you, Vincent Xavier, a lot, and I want to see where this goes, even if it scares me. Vincent cupped her face in his hands, memorizing every detail. It scares me too, but I am not walking away, not from you, not from Ruby. I want this. I want you. He kissed her again, longer this time, pouring everything he could not quite say into the touch. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. We should take this slow, Rebecca said. For Ruby's sake, she has already lost so much, as slow as you need. I am not going anywhere. Over the next few months, Vincent kept that promise. They dated carefully, stealing moments together while making sure Ruby felt secure. Vincent learned how to be part of their life, showing up for school events and helping with homework and cooking dinner in Rebecca's small kitchen while she studied for her classes. His business partners noticed the change in him. He was less willing to make purely profit-driven decisions, more interested in how choices affected employees and communities. When his board pushed back on his decision to expand rather than cut the pediatric wing at Riverside, Vincent stood his ground. Some things are more important than profit margins, he told them. We can afford to run one department at a loss if it means kids in this neighborhood have access to health care. Later, Rebecca teased him about going soft. They were in his penthouse apartment, which she had finally agreed to visit, drinking wine after Ruby had gone to sleep at a friend's house for the night. "You are changing," she said, tracing patterns on his chest as they lay on his couch. "Your executives probably think I am corrupting you." "You are," Vincent agreed. "Corrupting me with radical ideas like compassion and caring about people. It is terrible. Do you regret it?" He pulled her closer. "Not even a little bit. For the first time in my life, I am building something that matters more than money. I am building a life. With you." Rebecca lifted her head to look at him. "I love you, Vincent. I did not think I could feel this way again after Jake, but you have made me believe in second chances. I love you too." The words felt new in his mouth, unfamiliar but right. "I never thought I would say that to anyone. I did not think I was capable of it, but you and Ruby, you have changed everything." "So what happens now? Now I ask you something I should have asked weeks ago." Vincent sat up, keeping her in his arms. "Move in with me, you and Ruby. This place is too big for one person anyway, and Ruby would love having her own room with actual space. We can make it work however you want, separate rooms if that is what you are comfortable with, but I want you here. I want us to be a real family. Vincent, that is huge. And Ruby and I already talked about it." Rebecca pulled back, eyes wide. "You what?" "Last week when you were in class. She asked me if I was going to be her new daddy. And I told her that I would never try to replace her father, but that I loved her and you very much and wanted to be part of her family if she would let me. She said yes, by the way, very enthusiastically. You talked to my daughter about this before talking to me. I wanted to make sure she was okay with it before I put you in a difficult position. If she had said no, I would have backed off. But Rebecca, she wants this too. She told me she loves me and that you have been happier than she has ever seen you." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "That is, you are. I cannot believe you did that. Was it wrong?" "No, it was perfect. It was exactly what I needed to hear." She kissed him hard. "Yes. Yes, we will move in with you." Ruby is going to lose her mind with excitement. Ruby did indeed lose her mind with excitement. She explored every inch of Vincent's penthouse apartment, which took up the entire top floor of a downtown high-rise, declaring it like a castle in the sky. Vincent showed her the bedroom that would be hers, already decorated with things he knew she would love based on months of paying attention. "Is this really all mine?" Ruby asked, spinning in a circle in the middle of the room. "All yours," Vincent confirmed. "What do you think?" She launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "I think I am the luckiest girl in the whole world, and Vincent, I know you are not my daddy because my daddy died. But can I maybe sometimes pretend you are? Just a little bit." Vincent found himself blinking back tears, something he had not done since he was a child. "You can pretend as much as you want. And Ruby, I am the lucky one. I got to find you and your mom when I was not even looking for anything except money and business deals. You two saved me. We are a family now," Ruby said with absolute certainty. "A real family." "Yeah," Vincent agreed, looking over at Rebecca, who was crying openly now. "We are." The transition was not always smooth. Rebecca worried about keeping up with the lifestyle, uncomfortable with the wealth gap between them. Vincent had to learn how to be part of a unit instead of a lone wolf, making decisions that affected 3 people instead of just himself. Ruby had nightmares sometimes about losing another parent and needed reassurance. But they worked through it together, building something new and strong and theirs. 6 months after Rebecca and Ruby moved in, Vincent faced his biggest challenge yet. A global investment firm made an offer to buy Xavier Holdings for an amount of money that would set him up for life several times over. His board was thrilled. His lawyers started preparing paperwork. All Vincent had to do was sign. "Are you going to take it?" Rebecca asked when he told her about the offer. They were in the kitchen, Vincent cooking while Ruby did homework at the counter. "I do not know. It is a lot of money. You already have a lot of money. True. Vincent set down his spatula and turned to face her. What do you think I should do? I think you should do whatever makes you happy. What does make you happy, Vincent? He looked around the kitchen, at Ruby carefully writing out math problems with her tongue sticking out slightly in concentration, at Rebecca with her hair pulled up and her glasses sliding down her nose because she had been studying before he got home. This. You too. The work I am doing now that actually matters. If I sell, I will have money but nothing to do with my time, no purpose. So do not sell, Rebecca said simply. The board thinks I am crazy. The board does not have to live your life, you do. In the end, Vincent turned down the offer. He kept Xavier Holdings but restructured it completely, focusing on improving healthcare access rather than just profits. Some of his investors walked away. Others, surprisingly, stayed and even increased their stake once they saw the positive press and community goodwill the new direction generated. 2 years after that first day in the hospital, Vincent stood in a small church surrounded by everyone who mattered. Ruby, now 8, served as the flower girl, taking her job very seriously. Vincent's hands shook slightly as Rebecca walked down the aisle toward him, beautiful in a simple white dress. You look terrified, she whispered when she reached him. I am. I have negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, but this is the most important thing I have ever done and I am terrified of messing it up. You are not going to mess it up. We are in this together, remember. The ceremony was short and sweet. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Ruby cheered louder than anyone. At the reception, Vincent found himself dancing with his new stepdaughter while Rebecca watched from the sidelines, laughing. Are you happy now? Ruby asked, repeating the question Rebecca had posed to him years ago. Happier than I ever thought possible, Vincent answered honestly. Good, because Mommy said you did not know how to be happy before you found us. Your mom is right. I had no idea what I was missing. Well, now you know. And you are stuck with us forever. That is the best news I have ever heard. Later, after the reception, they went home together, all 3 of them. No honeymoon yet because Ruby had school and Vincent had meetings, but they did not care. They had time for trips later. Right now, home was enough. Vincent watched Ruby get ready for bed, Rebecca reading her a story like she did every night. He thought about the man he had been 3 years ago, driven and successful and completely alone. That man had walked past a hospital room and heard a little girl ask if her mother was going to die, and something inside him had cracked open just enough to let in light. Rebecca came out of Ruby's room and slid her arms around his waist from behind. What are you thinking about? About how grateful I am that I stopped walking that day. About how my entire life changed because of one small moment of caring about someone else's pain. I am grateful too. You gave us everything, Vincent, security and love and a real home. You gave Ruby a father figure when she desperately needed one. You gave me hope when I had forgotten what that felt like. Vincent turned in her arms to face her. You are wrong about who gave what. I was so focused on building an empire that I forgot to build a life. You reminded me what matters. Your past, all that pain and loss and struggle, it did not make you bitter. It made you strong and compassionate and exactly what I needed even though I did not know I needed it. Your past made you perfect for me. Rebecca smiled, standing on her toes to kiss him. Then I guess we are perfect for each other. 2 people who had every reason to give up on love and found it anyway. I am never giving up on this, on us, on the family we have built. Good, because you are stuck with us forever, just like Ruby said. They stood there in the hallway of their home, holding each other, Ruby sleeping peacefully down the hall. Vincent had spent his life collecting companies and properties and wealth, thinking that was what success looked like. But standing here with his wife in his arms and his daughter dreaming nearby, he finally understood what it meant to be truly rich. Years later, Vincent would look back on his life and see it divided into two clear periods: before Rebecca and Ruby, and after. Before, he had been successful but hollow, building an empire to fill a void that no amount of money could touch. After, he learned that the void had never needed filling with accomplishments or possessions. It had needed love, family, connection. Ruby grew up strong and kind, graduating high school with honors before heading off to college. She never forgot Jake, keeping pictures of her first father in her room alongside newer photos of Vincent teaching her to ride a bike and helping her with science projects. Vincent never tried to replace Jake, but he became a father to Ruby in all the ways that mattered. Rebecca finished her degree and then went on to get her MBA, eventually becoming Chief Operating Officer of Xavier Holdings. She and Vincent were true partners in every sense, running the company together and building it into something that made money, yes, but also made a difference. Vincent funded scholarships for kids aging out of foster care, making sure they had the support he never did. He and Rebecca became foster parents themselves for a brief period, giving two teenage brothers a home while they got back on their feet. One of those brothers, Marcus, ended up joining Xavier Holdings after college and was being groomed to eventually take over the company. On their 10th anniversary, Vincent and Rebecca sat on the balcony of their penthouse, watching the city lights twinkle below. Ruby was away at college and the house felt oddly quiet without her energy filling it. "You ever miss it?" Rebecca asked. "The old life before us?" "When you only had to worry about yourself," Vincent pulled her closer. "Not even once. That version of me was successful but not happy. You asked me once if I was happy and I did not know how to answer. Now I do. I am happy, completely, ridiculously happy." Even though Ruby called this afternoon to tell us she got a tattoo and pierced her nose, Vincent laughed. "Even though that, she is 18. She is allowed to make questionable decisions," says the man who almost had a heart attack when she told us. "I will get used to it. I have gotten used to a lot of things I never thought I would." He kissed her temple, "like sharing my space, like having to consider other people's feelings, like loving someone so much it actually hurts sometimes." "Does it hurt in the best way?" "Like when you work out and your muscles ache afterward because they are getting stronger. Loving you and Ruby has made me stronger, better. I would not trade that for anything." Rebecca shifted so she could see his face. "You know what I realized recently? You never expected my past would make me perfect. But it did. All the struggle and loss and learning to survive on my own, it prepared me for you. For understanding what you needed and being strong enough to stand beside you. If Jake had not died, as horrible as that sounds, we never would have met. I never would have been working nights at that hospital. You never would have walked past that room." "I think about that sometimes," Vincent admitted. "About all the tiny moments that had to happen exactly right for us to find each other. If I had walked past 30 seconds earlier or later. If I had not been doing that walkthrough, if you had been working a different floor, everything had to align perfectly. Maybe that is what fate is. Not some grand design, but a million small choices and chances that lead you exactly where you are supposed to be. Then fate did me a favor. The biggest one possible." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city they had both fought so hard to survive in, the city where they had found each other against all odds. Vincent thought about the scared, angry foster kid he had been, working multiple jobs and sleeping in his car, certain that he would always be alone. He thought about Rebecca, newly widowed with a small child and no safety net, working herself to the point of collapse to keep them afloat. Two people who had every reason to be bitter and closed off, had somehow found the courage to open their hearts one more time. And in doing so, they had saved each other. "I love you," Vincent said, simple words that still felt new and important every time he said them. "Thank you for stopping to talk to the strange man in the expensive suit who showed up in your hospital room. I love you too. Thank you for seeing past the scared, exhausted housekeeper to the person underneath who just needed a chance. You did not need a chance. You created your own chances. I just happened to be there at the right moment to see it." Down below, the city continued its endless movement, millions of people living their lives, facing their struggles, searching for their own moments of connection. Vincent hoped they all found what he had found: hope, love, family, purpose. But even if they did not, he was grateful beyond measure that he had. The lonely boy who thought he would never have a family had built one after all, not through blood but through choice and love, and showing up every day to be the person his wife and daughter needed. That was his greatest accomplishment, more significant than any company he could build or deal he could close. Rebecca and Ruby had made him whole. They had taught him that it was okay to need people, to love people, to let himself be loved in return. Vincent Xavier, self-made billionaire and former foster kid who trusted no one, had learned the most important lesson of all. The right person, the right family, can heal wounds you did not even know you had. And sometimes they come into your life when you least expect it, in a hospital hallway on an ordinary Tuesday, and change absolutely everything. The best part: he would choose them, choose this life, every single time. No matter what obstacles stood in the way, no matter how scared he was, no matter how much easier it would be to stay closed off and alone. Because easy had never given him anything worth having. But taking the risk, opening his heart, saying yes to love even when it terrified him, that had given him everything that mattered. As he held Rebecca close and looked out at their city, their home, Vincent smiled. He had spent his whole life searching for success, and he had found it. Just not in the place he expected. Success was not a bank account or a company or awards on a shelf. Success was this moment, this woman, this family they had built together from broken pieces and impossible odds. Success was love. Pure, simple, complicated, beautiful love. And Vincent Xavier, CEO of Xavier Holdings and one-time foster kid who thought he would always be alone, had more of that than he ever dreamed possible. His past had made him who he was. But Rebecca's past, with all its pain and strength, had made her exactly who he needed. Together, they had created something neither could have built alone: a family, a home, a future full of possibility, and that, Vincent thought as he kissed his wife under the stars, was worth more than all the money in the world.